There were 11 people in my parents' living room that Christmas Eve. The house was warm in that overfull holiday way, too many coats on the rack. Plates balanced on laps, someone refilling glasses in the kitchen every few minutes. A string of lights blinked slowly along the window frame. My father stood near the fireplace, telling a story. He liked being the center of a room like that. Someone had asked what I did for work now. He gave the answer before I could. She sorts files in a government basement. A few people laughed politely. Someone made a comment about paperwork never ending. I sat on the couch and watched the tree lights flicker against the wall. It wasn't the first time he described my job that way. It was easier for him than explaining something he didn't understand. Or maybe something he didn't want to understand. 6 weeks earlier he had wandered into the guest room while I was visiting. I'd left a folder inside my suitcase, sealed, but not locked. He mentioned it the next morning. Lot of numbers on those papers, he said casually while pouring coffee. I told him they weren't important to him. That should have been the end of it. 3 weeks after that visit, my phone started lighting up during a meeting. Fraud alerts. Credit inquiries. New accounts opened. 3 of them. By the time the first review finished, the total charges were already past $28,000. People in my position don't handle those situations privately. The system requires immediate disclosure. Every financial irregularity gets reported through internal compliance. One of the numbers on that document, the one my father had noticed, is a classified identifier tied to my clearance profile. It isn't like a social security number, it's monitored continuously. That monitoring system doesn't just flag suspicious activity. It tracks the origin points of anything connected to it. The compliance office started the review quietly. I didn't know where the trail would lead. I had an uneasy suspicion, but suspicion isn't evidence. So Christmas Eve arrived with the investigation already moving somewhere in the background. Back in the living room, my father was still talking. Government work, he said, shrugging. Nothing too exciting. Someone handed me a plate of cookies. I took one and nodded politely. Across the room, my father caught my eye and smiled like we were both in on the same harmless joke. Then outside, tires rolled slowly along the curb. 3 car doors closed. The sound was distinct in the quiet of the street. Conversation in the room continued for another few seconds before the knock came. Not loud. Just deliberate. My mother opened the door. 2 men and a woman stood on the porch in dark coats. The woman spoke first. Good evening, we're looking for Daniel Mercer. My father stepped forward. That's me. They entered the house with calm efficiency. Federal Compliance Division. The room fell silent in the way crowded rooms sometimes do when nobody understands what they're witnessing yet. We're following up on unauthorized financial activity connected to a protected government identifier, she said. My father frowned. What does that have to do with me? The second investigator glanced at a tablet. 6 weeks ago. A document containing that identifier was accessed from this residence. My father shifted his weight. That could have been anyone. The woman nodded slightly. Possibly. But the credit applications tied to the identifier originated through a network connection registered to this address. Nobody in the room moved. My cousin slowly set his drink on the coffee table. The investigator continued. The applications were submitted from a device linked to this home's wireless router at 3 separate times. My father's face tightened. That doesn't mean. It means. The investigator said calmly. We need to ask you a few questions outside. The Christmas tree lights blinked behind them. Red. Green again. My father looked around the room like he was expecting someone to interrupt. No one did. He followed them out the door. The cold air rushed inside for a moment before the door closed. Inside the living room, 11 people sat quietly among half-finished plates of food. My aunt stared at the carpet. My cousin looked at me like he was trying to understand something he hadn't noticed before. Nobody asked me a question. Outside, voices carried faintly through the door. Not angry, just procedural. After a few minutes, the investigators came back in. The woman approached me. Mercer, she said quietly. Yes. The accounts have been frozen. The charges will be reversed. The review is complete. I nodded. Understood. She paused for a moment. We'll be in touch through the compliance office. Then they left. Outside, the car doors closed again, engine started. The street returned to its normal quiet. Inside the house, the room felt different now. Like everyone had just discovered that a story they'd been laughing about wasn't actually a joke. My father came back inside last. He didn't look at me when he walked past. No one asked him what happened outside. The tree lights kept blinking in the corner. Red. Red again. I picked up my coat. For years he had told people I sorted files in a basement. That night, for the first time, everyone in the room understood there was more to it than that.